Everyone, I'm Sweet Melba. Thanks for tuning in. So, on our early stages of the Life Well Lived review, I wanted to start for myself where I thought I would start was finding the broad categories of my life that then all my various activities and goals and interactions and relationships fall under. So at this point, I've come up with, look at my notes today, 12 different categories. And then what I'm going to start doing is writing down, kind of brainstorming, and I kind of started this brainstorming the different components of my life that fall under these broad categories. And then from there, I'm looking to find some specific experiences, interactions, learning life lessons, things of that nature from those. And I am going to do a diary, or really more of a journal, I think, to kind of keep track of these as well, in addition to the video that I'm doing. So, again, I invite you to join along if you're interested in doing that. And I'll get started with sharing my 12 key categories in my life at this point. So the categories that I came up with, these are not in ranking order per se. And if I thought of doing that, and then I thought, well, those may change as I kind of work through this. So right now, they're just kind of standalone and in no particular order at this point. So my first one is family. So there's so many components of our life that revolve around our family. So family is one of my top ones, I think. It may be number one. It may just stay there. So for family, I should say, I have my parents, my brother. It was just my brother and I. I have my grandparents and one great grandparent in particular, my great grandma. My other grandparents had passed away before I was old enough to really know them. So, but I had one great grandma that had some significant influences in my life. So I'm looking forward to looking back on that. But then relatives. So, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, and then distant relatives. And for me, family also includes, and this is a big one for me personally, is my ancestors, going farther back than my grandparents or my great grandparents. As I've mentioned before, I am very much connected with history and family history as well. So I'm looking forward to kind of looking into that and sharing some of my experiences there. Then my spouse, and just that relationship and how my life revolves around those various aspects of being married. And I guess for others that could certainly just be your relationships, but I kind of split mine out. So I've put my married relationship, my spouse, as a particular category for me. And then friends, and friends being, close friends. So friends that I had when I was growing up, friends that I had as a teenager, friends as I was a young adult, as I was single before I got married, and then married friends. So those are kind of some of the areas that I have under that. Another category, career. So career was always something very important to me, and I think I've been fortunate in the jobs that I've had and then the career direction that I have. So I think I have a variety of areas in that. Like I say, just, jobs as I was in high school, jobs in college, where I thought that career direction was going to go, which changed a few times. And then finally, kind of getting into what became my career and where that's progressed and where I'm at today. I've owned my own business for 20 years. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of my insights and lessons from that and kind of thinking a little bit more in depth about that. A big one, finances. And gosh, finances change so much depending on how old you are, what level of responsibility you have at different ages. So, looking at those experiences and lessons learned from, being a kid and what I remember about finances in our family and whatnot. As I became a teenager and had my own money because I was either babysitting or eventually having a small part-time job, and then again finances in college, and so it just runs your whole spectrum. I don't know how finances couldn't be a part of your life, one of your important life categories, I think. So it's an area I actually enjoy, so I look forward to delving into that a little bit more and sharing that as well. Another category, community. What have I contributed to my community? What do I think of my community? The different ones that I've been in my life. How do I promote or help to grow my community and what I've contributed in that way? So yeah, community. Community meaning the community in which I live in. But that just then makes me think, there's a community outside of that residential community also. So I need to think about that a little bit more. That may be another category. We'll see. So education and learning. And I think learning, again, is one of those things that's lifelong. But the different things that, I think I've benefited from in my education, which really had to do with teachers. And, hopefully we have all had at least one teacher who has made a significant difference in our lives. And I've been fortunate to have a few. And I think about a few of them pretty regularly because their influence on me was quite large. And I continue to be grateful for that, especially in the career that I chose to do, and how they played a significant role in that, how they encouraged me to do better than I had done on certain projects or assignments. So there are, things from that standpoint. But then my education decisions in terms of where I decided I wanted to go to school and what was I going to study, whether that was in college or for others, maybe it's trade school. So there's lots down that road that I think all of us could consider. And then, as I say, I think learning is lifelong. So, what learning opportunities are there, or that I've taken advantage of, or that I continue uh, to look for and want to continue to do? So, certainly that's something that I'm going to delve in a little bit further too. So, yeah, education and learning, important. And then really broad is experiences. And, that's all those activities you got to do or you're still doing, adventures that you've had. I think of camping trips, which were really important when I was younger. Up until I was in college, we went camping at least a couple times a year. So that was significance in my life, from a variety of angles. So I look forward to talking about that. But activities, being younger, those extracurricular activities, what we did after school. I was a Girl Scout. Any Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts out there? I'd love to hear it in the comments. And certainly, as I'm kind of sharing some of these, I really hope that others will join in and share some of these broad categories that you think are important to kind of reflect on, as far as a life well lived. So please join in on the comments. I look forward to having others participate. So, anyway, so scouting, Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts. Another inexperienced concert. Oh, think of the concerts that you've been to if you had the opportunity to do it. Which ones were just like, a highlight for you, regardless of your age? But I've got a few to share. So I look forward to doing that. But yeah, concerts, fun. Parties, parties is one of those areas where there may be some goods and there may be some bads, maybe some bad choices in there. But anyways, that should be fun to look back on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And obviously experiences as you've gotten older, the travel opportunities typically come as you get older in life. So we've been fortunate to do that as a married couple. I did that before I got married as well. My husband and I have been married for 18 years this year, 2025. But before that, I got to do some traveling too, but we're really doing more of that now and planning for new adventures in travel going forward. So again, a great area. That should be a lot of fun to kind of look back on and what we learned along the way. So yeah, that should be fun. And legacy, I mentioned this in my previous video of, what kind of a legacy are we leaving behind or do we want to leave behind? And, I don't think that's just monetary. A lot of people associate that with money, but it's those lessons that you pass on. And I think for me, doing the video is kind of leaving a legacy as well. My husband and I don't have children, but we have nieces and nephews and cousins and second cousins, third cousins, who are all, growing up and some of them embarking on their careers. And so hopefully maybe some of this would be helpful to them as well in kind of sharing this and opportunities to highlight some things and lessons learned. So yeah, so those are legacies in my opinion. um, but legacies too in terms of the work that you've done, the careers that you've had. Have you furthered that profession or furthered the career or furthered, positives in your community? I think all of those are like legacy type things. So and there may be more as I start thinking about that, more to come to mind. So yeah, what do you think of when you think of legacies? Those are the ones that come to mind for me right now. Other relationships, so outside of friends, family, spouse, partner, but other relationships. I mentioned in education the teachers in our lives, the relationships we had with different teachers and what they meant to us and what they encouraged us to do and pushed us to work a little bit harder and maybe do a better job, or just reflect on what our interests were and why we wanted to do a particular project or things like that. But then, there are relationships like relationships with your neighbors, relationships with your doctors. I've always had, I might be an odd one, but I've always had really good relationships with my physicians and easy to talk to, in sharing just life in general, that all has an influence on our health. But yeah, so I think of my relationship with my different physicians. And coworkers, certainly that falls into career, but nevertheless, those are still relationships and how we look at those relationships and what we've learned from those and how we could do better in some cases. So yeah, relationships. So there's probably a lot more there that's just not coming to mind yet, but yeah. So again, please share your thoughts. What are those other relationships in our lives that we should be looking back on? Health, obviously health. And health again, I mean, that covers your entire life. I mean, so many of these are your entire life. They're not just like a short little segment of your life. They span your whole lifetime. And just health challenges, uh, activities that we've done to try and improve our health. Where are some of those struggles? Where are those successes? What we found that works as we all try to maintain a healthy lifestyle, and finding opportunities to improve on that. So certainly health. That's always been a struggle for me just in terms of my weight. And I'll lose it, I'll gain it, lose it, gain it. But overall, I think I have found some successes. I kind of know what works, and it's that focus attention, focusing on that, staying mindful of what you're eating, what you're doing. So I'm always trying to improve on that. Obviously, I think all of us are, and as we get older, that certainly becomes more important in our lives. But health too, in just mental health, obviously. And what are we doing to maintain a good mental health in our lives? And more than likely we've probably had periods in our life where we probably weren't doing a great job with that, or there were circumstances in our life that were presenting challenges for our mental health. And so thinking about some of that and how we move forward, or the help we may have received, I mean, those are things that, again, I think are really important to reflect on. The last one for me, and again, this isn't in terms of a ranking, but the last category for me is spiritual. Some of you may consider that faith. I consider it spiritual for me. I'm not a religious person. I don't attend church. I do on special occasions and whatnot. I haven't done that in quite a while. But for me, I feel more spiritually in terms of connectedness. Um, Words that come to mind for that for me are contentment, intuition, that gut feeling of things. To me, that's a spiritual thing. Finding ways to allow us to have time for that spiritual or faith connection, whatever that may be, for you. But that's certainly an important part. And that's changed for me. I think as I've gotten older, I tend to be a little more aware of those feelings or connections that I have. So I think looking at spiritual too is going to be an important part. So those are my 12, right? Yeah, 12 different categories that I think encompass my life. And as I said, what I'm going to start doing and sharing on the videos is kind of picking different experiences, lessons learned, challenges, hardships in the different categories. And I'll, kind of jump around as things kind of occur to me. And again, jotting this down in the journal I plan to keep as well. So again, I invite you to join me on the process. If you're interested, maybe creating your own journal, thinking about these different things. I certainly hope that my videos are of value to you and maybe make you kind of think about some of the things you've kind of pushed aside or forgotten about. And again, all things that I think are important aspects of a life well lived. And it's not all good stuff. I mean, I don't think life is like that. There are challenges, hardships, things to overcome, lessons to learn. So yeah, it's not all, roses, as they say. I just don't think that's life. And so I certainly am not looking at just all the positives. I'm looking at all the components of life, good, bad, hard, challenging, whatever it may be. So yeah, so this is going to be, I think, an enlightening process. I appreciate you joining. Again, I hope you enjoy the video and that some of you will join along. Please share your comments on the video. If you've enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Share with others, family, friends, colleagues that you think might enjoy the channel. And I hope you'll subscribe for the future videos, which I will be doing at least once a week. If something comes up during the middle of the week, I may jump in too. But again, thanks for joining me. I'm Sweet Melba, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.